when I approach my health, what's more important for me to take into consideration? My human cells, like what my mitochondria need, what my genetics might need, the cellular membrane, what it might need, or what my bacteria need. We've heard 10 more times more bacteria than human cells, but how do I prioritize where to put my bacteria? Is it ahead of my cellular needs?
The question you're asking, it's such a hugely important question, and different people have different perspectives on this. I'll give you mine. So there's these mechanisms that you just outlined: bacteria, intestinal bacteria, maybe intestinal fungus, mitochondria, maybe stimulating certain metabolic pathways, right? So there's all these different mechanisms that we can consider when we eat, when we move, when we do anything, when we supplement. If we try to intervene at the mechanism level, what's challenging about that is we're not sure if that mechanism is going to end up having the effect of better mood, clearer skin, better sleep, whatever the outcome measure is. Mm-hmm. So the way I like to look at this is, let's intervene in such a way that we know is going to change the health of the individual and put that first, rather than trying to intervene at the level of whatever the mechanism is. And here's a microbiota example of this. We know that probiotics and fiber feed gut bacteria. And this sounds like a good thing, and it is a good thing for a fair subset of the population. However, anywhere from 20 to 40% of the population has what's known as a functional gastrointestinal disorder. They have bloating, they have gas, they have reflux, they have constipation, something like this in this broad umbrella term of FGDs. And for these people, not for all, but for a fair number, eating a high level of probiotics or fiber can actually make them worse. And it can flare their reflux. It can flare their constipation or their diarrhea or whatever. So if we went to the mechanism, well, feed good bacteria, good for host. But if that flares the symptoms of the individual, that's not good for the entirety of that person. So paradoxically, in some cases, eating lower fiber or lower probiotic actually is better for the net outcome of the individual. So when we look at outcomes, that tells us, when we summarize all the impacts of the mechanism, which one translates to the total good that we're trying to achieve. So I don't know if that's going too nerdy.
Yeah. No, how would you know what that outcome is? Like, how would you know if you fell into that category?
Right. And so this is where I think working through a somewhat linear hierarchy can help someone figure this out. Okay. So you have a few different steps you can take, and then your symptoms are the primary barometer. We say at the clinic, your body is boss. So we want to really listen to and steward the signals from your body. So let's say someone comes in and they have fatigue, brain fog, and constipation. Somewhat common symptoms, right? Now there's all these different things you could do, right? You could go high carb, low carb, keto. You could supplement with fiber. You could not supplement with fiber. So how do we reconcile where we go? Well, let's start with food quality first, right? If the individual is coming in and they're drinking soda and they're eating lots of processed food, which I'm assuming most of your audience is not, but just to acknowledge kind of step 0 to 1, you start there. And if they're at a decent baseline diet, okay. Then from there, let's maybe consider a low FODMAP diet if they have digestive issues, because we know that can help for some people after they've gone through dietary step 1, which is basic food quality. Okay. And you go on that diet for about 3 weeks, and either your symptoms improve or they don't improve. And then you can line up next to that maybe an intervention with probiotics, let's say. But the point I'm making is we have to start making our decisions based around the response of the individual, not based upon what's in vogue. Microbiome good, high fiber, high probiotic. And that message gets out there, and it helps some people, the people who will benefit from that, but it might make other people worse. And so unfortunately, what ends up happening is the healthcare consumer is secondary to what's in vogue. And what I try to do is say, these things have a time and a place. Let's just try to figure out which one for you in what order, so that you have the highest likelihood of improving your symptoms as quickly as you can.
I could not agree with that more. And one of the things that I'm seeing just from the perspective that I'm looking at from health is that a podcast like this, it's a great example. It could either be used to improve your health, or it could pigeonhole you into the wrong strategy for you. And the problem that we have is we're looking for the absolute in health. And the only absolute is your absolute. So it like, if you can't do what your friend did, you can't, like, if we could sit up here and say, oh, the FODMAP diet is amazing for the gut. Well, maybe that will work for some people, but it doesn't work for others. So the challenge I have to the public is listen to these podcasts and then test it just the way you said. I love that. Let the body be the boss. Otherwise, you're going down into a path that could be as unhealthy as eating McDonald's.
Yep. And this is where I think it's helpful just to give people the benchmarks of, for most diets, by the second week, you'll notice something. And by the third-ish week, it's not to say you're fully improved, but you're able to say, I'm feeling better. I'm going to keep going. Or if you're not, time to put something else in line for the next experiment. And that way you can be moving, right? Like one of the other things we say at the clinic is keep patients moving forward, right? We don't want to hit this stagnancy. If it's not working, let's keep thinking, let's keep iterating, but let's not just come back to the, well, you got to give it time like that. No clinician likes saying that, by the way, and they don't say it because they want to say it, but sometimes we're not sure what else to do. And so I think it is really helpful to keep an individual moving forward.
Yeah. One of my favorite statements is you don't need motivation, you need momentum.
Yes.
And when you get momentum with your health, you're like excited. You're like, what's next? What's next? But when somebody's like, oh, I'm not motivated to work out. Well, sometimes momentum looks like putting your favorite workout outfit on. And you're like, oh, well, actually, I feel like it now. So I would say the same thing is like, if you're trying a probiotic or a different diet, like something just to give you that step forward is going to keep pulling you to some better health place.